We're seeing a noticeable shift in consumer preferences across several sectors. What seems to be driving this change?
It appears to be a combination of factors, including greater awareness of sustainability issues and a growing demand for personalized experiences.
That's a valid point. Would you say the pandemic accelerated this trend, particularly in terms of how people shop?
Undeniably, lockdowns forced a mass adoption of e-commerce, but more importantly, they gave people time to reflect on their values. Convenience is no longer the sole driver. It's now weighted against ethical production and environmental impact.
Interesting. So it's a more conscious form of consumption. How are businesses adapting to this? It must be a significant operational challenge.
It is. Forward-thinking companies are investing in transparent supply chains. They're providing detailed product origins and carbon footprint data. Others are adopting subscription models or offering modular products to cater to that desire for personalization and longevity.
What about the role of social media? It seems to be a double-edged sword. It can champion sustainable brands, but also fuel fast fashion hauls.
Absolutely. It's the primary amplifier. Influencers promoting haul culture certainly have an impact. However, we're also seeing a rise in influencers who audit brands' claims, holding them accountable. This peer-to-peer scrutiny is powerful.
Let's shift to the hospitality and travel sector. The demand for personalized experiences is clear there. Is this just about curated travel itineraries?
It goes much deeper. It's about authentic, localized experiences over generic tourism. Travelers now seek homestays, cooking classes with local families, or workshops with artisans. They want a narrative, a connection to the place, not just a checklist of landmarks.
That requires a lot more from local operators and destinations. Do they have the infrastructure to support this sustainably without commodifying their own culture?
That's the crucial question. Over-tourism in search of the authentic is a real risk. Success depends on community-led tourism, where residents have a stake and control. It's about managing volume and ensuring economic benefits are distributed fairly.
Looking ahead, do you believe this is a permanent shift, or could economic pressures see a reversion to more price-driven decisions?
I believe the genie is out of the bottle. While inflation may affect spending levels, the underlying values have been cemented. A younger generation of consumers has grown up with these priorities. They may buy less, but when they do, they'll still seek brands that align with their ethos. The baseline expectation has changed for good.
That's an optimistic yet pragmatic outlook. It suggests that businesses who view sustainability as a core value, not just a marketing tactic, will be the ones that thrive.
Precisely. It's a fundamental recalibration. Companies are realizing that long-term resilience is tied to social and environmental responsibility. It's becoming embedded in business strategy, not just a sidebar in an annual report.
This has profound implications for global trade and production models. Could we see a move towards more regional or localized supply chains as a result?
To an extent, yes. The vulnerabilities of global chains, seen during the pandemic and recent geopolitical tensions, have added a practical layer to the sustainability argument. Friendshoring or nearshoring reduces emissions and risk. However, a full retreat from globalization is unlikely. The focus will be on smarter, more transparent, and resilient global networks.
It seems technology, particularly blockchain for traceability and AI for personalized customer journeys, will be critical enablers in this new landscape.
Without a doubt, technology provides the tools to verify claims and tailor experiences at scale, but the human element, the story, the ethics, the genuine connection remains the core driver. The tech must serve that, not overshadow it.
You've given us a comprehensive view. It's clear this isn't a passing trend, but an evolution in the relationship between consumers, businesses, and the world they operate in.
I agree. We're moving from a transaction-based economy to one increasingly focused on values and meaning. It's a challenging but necessary evolution.
Let's drill down into the sustainability aspect. A common criticism is greenwashing, where companies exaggerate their environmental efforts. How can a discerning consumer tell the difference?
It's a major issue. The key is to look for specificity and third-party verification. Vague claims like eco-friendly are meaningless. Consumers should seek out recognized certifications like B Corp, Fair Trade, or specific details on materials, renewable energy use, and waste diversion percentages. Scrutinizing a company's entire supply chain report, not just its marketing, is crucial.
That requires a fair bit of effort from the consumer. Is it reasonable to expect everyone to become a researcher before every purchase?
It's a valid burden, which is why regulatory bodies in many regions are stepping in to standardize claims. The EU's Green Claims Directive is a prime example. Ultimately, the responsibility shouldn't fall solely on the consumer. It's a push and pull. Informed consumers demand transparency, which forces better regulation and more honest corporate behavior.
Shifting gears slightly, how is this demand for personalization affecting the job market? Are new skill sets emerging?
Dramatically. There's soaring demand for roles like data ethicists who ensure personalization doesn't breach privacy, and sustainability officers who embed these principles operationally. Even in traditional roles, marketers now need to be storytellers who articulate a brand's authentic value, and product designers must engineer for disassembly and repair, not just creation.
That touches on the circular economy model, keeping resources in use for as long as possible. Is this gaining real commercial traction beyond niche brands?
Increasingly so. Major electronics and apparel companies are launching serious buyback, refurbishment, and rental schemes. The economics are becoming viable. It builds brand loyalty, secures future material streams, and directly addresses that consumer desire for both sustainability and value, owning the latest item without the full environmental cost of perpetual new production.
It sounds promising. But what about the psychological element? We're social creatures. Does moving away from mass-produced status symbol goods impact our social interactions or sense of identity?
A fascinating point. It arguably enriches it. Instead of identity tied to a ubiquitous logo, it's expressed through curated choices that reflect deeper values, the story behind a locally made item, the craftsmanship of a repairable product. Conversation shifts from "what is that?" to "why did you choose that?" It fosters connection based on shared principles rather than conspicuous consumption.
So it could lead to more meaningful community building, both online and offline.
Precisely. Online communities form around sustainable living tips or sharing repair skills. Offline, farmers markets and maker fairs become social hubs. The consumption becomes less solitary and more connected to a network of producers and like-minded individuals.
This brings us back to the start. This isn't just a change in what we buy, but in how we think about our place in the economy and society.
Exactly. It's a holistic cultural shift. The daily act of consumption is becoming a more conscious vote for the kind of world people want to live in. It blends personal desire with a sense of collective responsibility. That's what makes this shift so powerful and, I believe, enduring.
That collective responsibility angle is crucial. Does this mean we're moving away from traditional advertising that creates desire towards marketing that educates and informs a choice that's already been considered?
In many sectors, yes, the hard sell is becoming less effective. Modern marketing for these values-driven brands is about content creation, showcasing the craftsmanship, explaining the ethical sourcing, telling the farmers or artisans' story. It's less, "you need this," and more, "this is why we made this and who it benefits." It builds trust and community around the brand.
What about the price premium often associated with sustainable or bespoke goods? Isn't that inherently exclusionary, limiting this movement to a more affluent demographic?
It's the most significant barrier and a just criticism. The goal must be to make ethical consumption accessible. This is where scale, innovation, and policy intersect. As circular models and sustainable technologies mature, costs should come down, but also reframing value is key. Paying more for one durable item that replaces 5 cheap ones is economically sound in the long run. The challenge is upfront cost for those on tight budgets.
So it requires a shift in how we budget and value goods over time. Are there other global trends influencing this, like demographic changes or urbanization?
Immensely. Growing urban populations create a disconnect from production, which ironically fuels the desire for authentic connection to source. Also, millennials and Gen Z are not just consumers, but inheritors of climate and economic instability. Their consumption patterns are shaped by that existential awareness. Furthermore, in aging societies, there's less interest in clutter and more in quality and experience, what some call the minimalist shift.
Minimalism ties in nicely. Is this trend also a reaction to sheer overwhelm, the paradox of choice in a globalized marketplace?
Absolutely. Digital saturation and endless choice can be paralyzing. Curated, values-aligned purchasing simplifies decision-making. It's a filter. You're not choosing from 10,000 coffee brands, you're choosing the one that aligns with your views on fair trade and organic farming. It reduces cognitive load while providing psychological reward.
Let's consider a potential downside. Could this lead to a new form of social stratification or judgment, of virtue signaling through consumption, where people are judged by the purity of their purchasing choices?
That risk is certainly present. It can morph into a performative, elitist mindset. The key is to focus on systemic change over individual perfection. Shaming someone for a plastic bag while ignoring corporate polluters is counterproductive. The movement is healthiest when it's inclusive, encouraging better choices where possible, and advocating for the systemic changes that make those choices easier and more affordable for everyone.
That's a balanced perspective. So the ideal is progress, not perfection, and collective advocacy alongside personal choice.
Exactly. Individual consumption choices create market signals, but they must be coupled with civic engagement, voting, supporting relevant policies, and holding large institutions accountable. One without the other is insufficient for the scale of change needed.
As we look to the future, what sector do you think will be transformed next by these converging expectations of sustainability and personalization?
The financial sector is ripe for disruption. We're already seeing the rise of ESG, environmental, social, governance, investing. The next step is retail banking and pensions. Consumers will want their banks to divest from fossil fuels and their pensions to be aligned with their values. They'll seek financial products that are personalized not just in risk, but in ethical impact. Money itself will be seen as a tool for shaping the future, not just storing value.
That brings our conversation full circle. From daily purchases to the very flow of capital, it underscores that this is a fundamental recalibration of our economic philosophy.
It is. We are witnessing and participating in a transition from a model centered on extraction and limitless growth to one increasingly oriented towards well-being, regeneration, and meaning. It's a complex, uneven transition, but the direction of travel is becoming clear.
That note on identity and systems is profound. When individuals align their spending with their values, it inevitably leads to a discussion about politics. Are we seeing consumer behavior become a direct substitute or a complement to traditional political engagement?
It's a potent form of political action, often termed political consumerism. For some, especially where trust in government is low, voting with your wallet feels more immediate and tangible. It's a direct market signal. However, it should be a complement, not a substitute. A citizen is more powerful than a consumer alone. True change requires both, altering purchase patterns and voting for representatives who will legislate on carbon taxes, worker rights, and corporate accountability.
That duality is important. Let's explore a tangible example, the food industry. From farm-to-table movements to lab-grown meat, this sector is at the epicenter of these shifts. What's the most significant change you're observing here?
Beyond organics, it's the demand for provenance and low food miles. People want to know the farm, the farmer's name, and the distance the food traveled. This has revitalized local agriculture in many regions, but it's also driven innovation in urban vertical farming, reducing miles to zero. The paradox is that this hyper-local trend exists alongside a global appetite for exotic superfoods, which carries its own carbon footprint.
Which raises a complex question. Is a local, non-organic tomato always better than an imported, certified organic one? How does the average person navigate that calculus?
There's no perfect answer, which is why the progress, not perfection mantra is key. Life cycle analyses can be contradictory. Generally, transportation is a smaller part of a food's footprint than production methods. However, supporting the local economy and ensuring freshness are also values. The best approach is informed prioritization. Reducing meat consumption has a much greater impact than agonizing over tomato mileage, for instance.
That's a very practical lens. Let's talk about technology's role again, but specifically social media's algorithm. It can trap us in filter bubbles. Does this values-driven consumption risk creating echo chambers, where we only see brands that confirm our existing worldview?
A significant risk. Algorithms are designed to engage, not to challenge. You might see a constant stream of perfect zero-waste influencers, which can feel inspiring but also unattainable, or breed judgment. The counter-movement is conscious curation, actively seeking diverse perspectives, including those that challenge the feasibility of these trends for everyone. Critical thinking is the essential muscle to exercise alongside ethical consumption.
So the tools that enable this movement also come with the responsibility to manage our own information diet. Shifting to the workplace culture you mentioned earlier, as companies rebrand as purpose-driven, how can employees distinguish between authentic cultural change and internal purpose washing?
Employees are the ultimate auditors. They look at where capital is allocated. Is it in shiny sustainability reports or in R&D for greener materials? They assess if worker well-being and fair pay are treated with the same importance as the external ESG score. High turnover in sustainability departments can be a red flag, suggesting the company's actions don't match its rhetoric, leading to employee disillusionment.
That internal culture piece is often overlooked. Finally, if you had to identify one skill that will be most vital for individuals to thrive in this evolving landscape, what would it be?
Critical systems thinking, the ability to see the interconnectedness, to trace the line from a purchase to a supply chain to an environmental impact to a social consequence and back to policy. It moves us beyond simplistic good-bad labels. It allows for nuanced choices, resilient adaptation, and effective advocacy in a world where the personal, economic, and planetary are inextricably linked.
From consumer preferences to systems thinking, this conversation has beautifully illustrated how a simple market observation can unfold into a deep examination of our modern world. Thank you for such a comprehensive and thoughtful discussion.
Thank you. It's a complex but essential dialogue. As we've explored, every choice is a thread in a larger fabric. Being mindful of that weave is perhaps the most important practice.